All right, it is 7:30. We're going to call the regular council meeting to session. It is Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
All right, and next we're going to do the invocation and pledge of allegiance with, I believe, Mary Ann.
Holy Father, we ask for guidance and direction in all city matters before us tonight. We give thanks to be able to be together. Let us continue to strive to make our community a better place. Help us to work together, and may we give our best always. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next up is approval of the minutes from December 3rd, 2019. Everybody have a chance to take a look at them?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Yes. Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Minutes are passed 7-0. Next up is awards and presentations.
There are none.
All right. Next up is audience participation.
Yes, we have Bob Hughes.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Bob Thews, 2229 Demi Drive, Twinsburg, Ohio, Meadowood Plan. Because a council chooses to use an asinine rule to basically squelch the opinions of the residents, this argument, which started last week, will continue for another meeting. Since council does not allow a speaker to remark after their 5 minutes, some councilmen use that time as a bully pulpit to say things that are absolutely not true. Normally, I let these actions go as an opportunity for the council to politic at my expense. I then gently, well, sometimes not so gently, remind them after the meeting about their mistake. But this never gets acknowledged publicly. This year I decided enough is enough. For example, I complained at the last meeting that project management for the city was poor and unacceptable. For some reason, councilmen felt that my project management experience was lacking. I just never had to deal with difficult government agencies. This is a councilman speaking in sheer ignorance of my background. I probably, through my work in private industry, did more with public utilities than he has. In manufacturing, since most of our utility work would mean a plant shutdown and a loss of income to all the workers, my work with utilities never allowed more than 1 week before a deadline. I'll give you some examples. I added another 1/3 increase in electrical capability to a substation in Ohio, okay, Ohio Edison, by the way, on a scheduled 1-week deadline without loss of pay for the employees. I had connections completed for a large natural gas supply line to power 3 boilers on a shutdown. I built a 3/4 million gallon fire retention pond and hooked it through a backflow preventer to the city water without any disruption in water flow. I was working with 3 vendors, and a power company tore out a wall, disconnected a large mixer, and installed a new one, including repowering from the substation, all on a Christmas shutdown. I had a 13-week deadline to move 1 whole plant worth of equipment, reinstall it in a nearby plant, and get the equipment and process certified by a major automotive manufacturer. Finally, I had to develop a plan and implement it on a tight time frame for both the federal EPA in Pennsylvania and the EPA of Baltimore County in Maryland. I did all of this while either running a small manufacturing facility or managing an engineering department. 2 things. Never assume that the Twinsburg residents are ignorant and made their living scavenging garbage sites. That's a bad assumption. Secondly, try project management. You don't have it, but you need it. Finally, I can admit I made a mistake last week. and this is something I need to rephrase. I do want to correct my remarks about the two council at large and Ethan's Green councilman about the new roundabout. They were not oblivious to the roundabout process. They were just totally ineffective. Thank you very much.
That is all.
Next, we're on to council communications and reports. Mr. Fury,
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mrs. Stoffer.
My committees didn't meet, but I did attend the Regional Academic Center, the Kent State meeting this morning. I had a couple of things I wanted to share. I could do this in miscellaneous, though, if it's better.
It's up to you.
Okay, well, basically, they're doing well with enrollment. They have changed the name, we talked about it I've talked about it a few times, to the Twinsburg Regional Academic Center, so I think that'll be exciting to get the word out. Trying to think what I can share here with you. They're looking for ways to get the word out, so I'm going to continue to talk about this at every meeting. Because it really is, like I said before, a diamond in the rough. We've got a lot of great opportunities available there. Applications are up. Right now, they're excited about their enrollment. It is strong for spring. They will be getting some more, though, after finals this week, so good luck to all those students. And I think that's really all I have, other than I want to make sure everybody knows just what a great opportunity it is out there. So I'm excited. They may be having some sort of a ribbon cutting at the end of January to kind of re-announce the name. And they're working on all of their signage. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barr.
None of my committees have met yet. The next Finance Committee meeting is coming up in January the 28th, so that'll be before the caucus meeting. And just a shout out to everybody that participated in Luminosity. It was a great event. I'd like to applaud our Parks and Rec Director. City Hall looks great. The lights look awesome, and it was a fun time. I had a great time. So thank you for everybody that was involved with that. And just wish everybody the best holiday season coming up here. So that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. Good evening. Of course, my committees, we've all been reassigned with the new council president, so my committees I have not sat on any of my committees yet. However, the Planning Commission will meet on Monday, January 6th, 2020 at 7 o'clock here at City Hall. Other than that, I have nothing else from Parks and Rec or Capital Improvement, and I just want to wish all the residents a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah to all. Enjoy the holidays however you celebrate and be safe. Thank you. That's it.
Mrs. Walker.
Good evening. I did call some of my committees to see what their expectations were when they had a council person to represent them. Today I had a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, and we formed a lot of great ideas, great dialogue that we had. I did talk with Twins Days, and they had a meeting, it was last week, and I didn't know anything about that, otherwise I would have attended. But their next meeting is going to be January 8th, I believe. Community Relations, they're going to be sending me out the last minutes that they had so I could get caught up to speed. And also Public Safety, I contacted them, and I think their meetings will be March and May. So that's all I have to report.
Ms. McFerrin.
That was good for her report.
Thank you.
I have the meeting from the Architectural Review Board, the minutes of December 5th, last week. There was case 1912-124 at 2745 Creekside Drive, Kent State University, monument sign request, and that motion was approved. Case 1912-125 at 8798 Maryvale Drive, a new single-family dwelling, and that motion was approved. Case number 1912-126, 3024 Wyatt's Way, a new single-family dwelling. That motion was approved. There was a work session with the City of Twinsburg Building Inspector Dan Saglega, and he provided each board member with a draft of changes to the ordinance 1173 for the sign code. And as Director of Planning and Community Development, Larry Finch will be presenting the changes to the board Thursday, December 19th, 2019. The next ARB meeting will be on January 16th. The Golf Advisory meeting will be on January 21st at 6:30. I'd like to add that when you think that there's a great event and it can't get any better, you see the Parks and Rec and Reminderville and the Township put on Luminosity, and it was just totally amazing. It just gets better every year. So I want to thank all three entities for that. I did want to give a report on the Sunshine Protection Act. Where I had brought this to City Council, and we did a resolution 43-2019 supporting the state of Ohio to come up with a Sunshine Protection Act, which is currently being debated. At that time, since that time, we had a meeting on November 13th where I was a proponent testimony. And then from there, it's now being introduced as a concurrent resolution where the Senate, the state of Ohio, the House of Representatives concurring, are putting forth a motion to Congress, the Congress of the United States, to enact the Sunshine Protection Act of 2019. So I just wanted to share that, and that's all I have under reports.
Thank you. Earlier tonight, Council met with the state auditor to get an update on their progress. Again, this is a citywide review of all of the departments, and they're making very good progress. So, I also attended this evening's public hearing to address the R7 site plan for Wilcox Meadows. I'd like to thank all the residents who came out to have their voice heard this evening. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Again, just to echo what everyone said, Luminosity was just a fantastic event. We had great weather. It was a really good turnout, and it was just amazing down at the square, just standing among thousands of people, just watching them bring in the holidays and the fireworks and the way that the square is lit up looks great this year. So it just really is a fun event. I love some of these holiday events that we really put on because it really brings the community together. I attended a mayor's forum downtown and got to hear the governor speak, Mayor Jackson, and it was an informative event, just hearing some of the, in a small little window of time, some of the initiatives that are going on and some of the things that they're working on at the state level. And also to get to talk a little bit more to some of the Collier County mayors. I'm part of the association, but we tend to, Summit County and Portage and Stark kind of have our own association, but it's nice being in Cleveland and spending some time talking with some of the Cleveland communities that all kind of share the same issues that we do here in Twinsburg. Things coming up is we've got a busy weekend. We have Shop with a Cop, so I want to thank our police department for putting that on, Dan Fido, who heads it up. I'm probably going to have another record-breaking year with kids. It sounds like I looked at the volunteer list and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, but I know we've got some accounts going out. You're really going to enjoy your day. It's a special time, and it's just an amazing event when you start parading cars from the Stowe High School, and it's not just a couple departments, it's a lot of departments, and it's a great day. So I'm glad you're able to participate in that. We do have our Firehouse Santa Run, and I know that it should be all set, ready to go. But that's a busy, basically 10-hour day for everyone, where we're delivering gifts to kids all around the community in fire trucks with Santa. So, one Santa? Oh, it's going to be a really interesting day. All right. And then also, we have Breakfast with Santa. I know that's sold out, but again, thanks to the fire department and Parks and Rec for putting that on, and they host it at the firehouse. Again, another event. I encourage council, if you've got a free morning, stop by and walk around. And for some of us, remember what our kids used to be like when they were really little. And then last, we have Light the Night, which is a little bit late this year. It's on the 23rd. It's our Hanukkah celebration. It's something we've done for, about 4 years now? So, but I encourage you to attend that, even if you're not celebrating Hanukkah, because we do have a nice our community does celebrate that, and we have, residents that really are thankful that we recognize Hanukkah with a city event. So, anyway, that's my report, and so we'll go into a couple of department head reports. Derek, you want to start?
Good evening. I wanted to thank a couple people for Luminosity as well. It's a lot of more than just me, and even Parks and Rec, Service Department, Police Department, Fire Department, Township Service Department, Reminderville helping out as well. Chamber of Commerce, Starbucks was a sponsor this year as well in Twinsburg. But it is an undertaking. It's a long day, and it's difficult when you do a night event and you have roads and fireworks and traffic stopped and all the stuff going on, but it's I thought it turned out really well this year. The parade, I think, and appreciate Mr. Barr for entering. The light up parade, I think, is going to be even bigger next year. I think it went over really well, and it was cool to see everyone lining the street as it was originally intended to be years ago. It just took a while to come to fruition. So hope people enjoyed it, and hopefully we have the same good weather this year. Cold but not raining. Like the mayor said, Breakfast with Santa. It's this Saturday. It's 9:30 if you're interested in coming. And Light the Night 2 on December 23rd this year. We're working with a local group that's going to make it a kosher event. So this will be a 100% kosher event. So they're kind of taking over the kitchen and all spatulas and how we cooking and all that stuff is going to make this a kosher event. It is, I've been doing it for a few years. I've learned so much about Hanukkah and the religion and the celebration and all the ceremonies just because they do give you some information and some of the blessings and things like that. So it's kind of interesting, even if you're not Jewish, to come out and hang out with your family and friends that are Jewish. It's cool. And also we have a cocktail party for the senior center cocktail party at Glen Eagles on December 20th. The luncheon is sold out at the Hilton, but we're going to have an additional cocktail party that night at the Hilton. And also New Year's Eve at Glen Eagles party. You can get general admission tickets now, or $65, or you can get VIP tickets that include some drinks and a reserved table. Right now they're $85 in advance, and of course it's on December 31st. Winter break camp, so if you're looking for something to do with kids over the holidays, we have a winter break camp at the fitness center. We also have a couple things for older kids. We have a lifeguarding class and a water safety instructor class. So if you're interested in being a lifeguard or teaching swimming lessons, you can take the class during winter break, and then you can get hired on, next year as a city employee in those positions if you pass. All the applications for stuff like that usually comes out January, February, especially for day camp volunteers, day camp leaders start looking at January and February online for that. A lot of people do miss that. We have to start really early because it takes a lot of planning. Gift cards are on sale right now for Glen Eagles at the Pro Shop or at Aaron Moses. You can stop up and get those. And we will be doing a theater show, a small kids-only theater show in February at Chamberlain Middle School. So the community theater will be announcing that new show here shortly. That's all I got.
Derek, one question. I had a question from a resident about the new ball field.
Yeah.
Status, progress?
The project itself hasn't officially closed out with
Okay.
the contractor because
Yeah.
we're waiting on one little
Okay.
thing, but it's seeded.
Okay.
I would say
looks
it's
great.
99%
Yeah.
done. We're going to
Looks
see
awesome.
how the grass takes over the cold months here to determine when they actually start playing
Okay.
on, if it's going to be the spring or more than likely the fall, just
The
to
fall.
give it a good time to
Okay.
seed.
Thank you.
Derek, you might have said the date, but I missed it. When is the senior Christmas lunch?
The 20th.
20th?
Correct, Friday.
Yeah. And the cocktail?
Cocktails the
is that
same night
evening,
in the
same
evening,
day,
same day
that
in the evening.
That's at the clubhouse.
Correct. Cocktail
Yeah.
parties at
Yeah,
Glen
the-
Eagles.
The luncheon is at Hilton, and the
That's-
cocktails at Glen Eagles. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Keith, you want to come up?
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Keith Folks, and I'm excited to be here in the city of Twinsburg to manage your building department. I've met Councilman Scafidi and emailed Councilman Fury, and I'm sure that was in the first 2 days of being here. I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to talk with all of you directly and hopefully get better acquainted. I've met many of the staff and the community members, and they've also been very welcoming. My background spans more than 30 years in the construction industry. 20 years of that is combined as a municipal building inspector, of which began in my hometown of Brecksville. I've also worked in other area communities, and some of those being Olmsted Township, University Heights, and the city of Strongsville, to name a few. I'm looking forward to working with all of City Council and the mayor in my capacity as building commissioner, and I'd also like to wish you all happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nice to
Welcome.
meet you.
Thanks, Keith.
Have a good night.
Yeah, we're excited to have him here. He's really, he's jumped right in, and we've thrown stuff at him as soon as he started, so he's kind of sitting waiting.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right, Sarah?
Yeah, I moved it.
Good evening, council. We're continuing to work with the performance audit team from the state of Ohio. Right now, the department heads are working on verifying some data that they've asked about. Our financial audit has been approved by the state of Ohio Auditor's Office, so now it just should be in the next couple weeks that they release it online. I'll let you know when that becomes available. I don't have the last RETA settlement, so I don't have the income tax numbers for the year for you yet. I'll have them in January because it doesn't hit till Friday. And finance, we're currently accepting applications for an accounting assistant. It's a temporary position, part-time to full-time hours. You can check it out on the website. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, and now we're on to legislation. First up is ordinance 104, 2019.
The temporary appropriation ordinance for 2020 approved by council from estimates submitted by the mayor, providing for the ordinary expenses and other necessary expenses of the city of Twinsburg, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 104, 2019 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
A second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion?
The reason for the emergency is this is a temporary budget that has to be submitted to the county before the before the end of December. We have to have a final budget in by the 31st of March. And the reason for the emergency is we can't wait the 30 days of normal processing. We need to have this done now. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Emergency clause passes 7-0. I'd now like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 104, 2019 as an emergency. May I have a second?
A second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ordinance 104, 2019 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Next is ordinance 107, 2019.
An ordinance approving the construction agreement for the water line extension located at 9802 Chamberlain Road and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 107, 2019 on its third and final reading and declare an emergency. May I have a second, please?
Second?
Mr. Barr seconds. Discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Emergency passes 7-0. I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 107, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 107, 2019 as an emergency. Is there a second?
A second. Yield.
Mr. Barr seconds. Discussion?
This is a water line extension agreement for Chamberlain Road, and the reason we're putting on an emergency is basically to clear up the agenda before the end of the year. This is something that needs to be addressed most likely in January, but that's the reason for the motion, and that's what this is. It's just simply an agreement on where a water line extension is located on Chamberlain.
Any further discussion? Shannon, please call roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Ordinance 107, 2019 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Next up is ordinance 109, 2019.
An ordinance accepting the bid of Fetchco Excavating LLC for the 2020 Oakwood Drive Improvement Project and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 109, 2019 on its third and final reading and declare an emergency. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Discussion?
Yeah, what this is the Oakwood Drive improvements in Glenwood Acres, which is another one of the streets that we're going to be changing out the water line, as well as the working on some sanitary and storm sewers, and then there'll be a road reconstruction. I believe this is one of the last three that need to be done in order to complete that project. I believe Dorridge is next, and then we've got a section over on Glenwood that needs to be done by the railroad tracks. So, and this project is about $934,000. OPWC funding at 50% to us at a 0% interest loan for the next 30 years. So I'm looking forward to seeing this project go forward and getting another one of the streets in Glenwood Acres done to change out that transite pipe.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Emergency passes 7-0. And now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 109, 2019 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi, seconds. Discussion? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ordinance 109, 2019 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Next up is ordinance 113, 2019.
An ordinance amending Section 147 of the codified ordinances of the City of Twinsburg regarding employees generally and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 113, 2019 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Barr, seconds. Discussion?
Again, the reason for the emergency would just be so that we could get some language in Section 147 taken care of regarding employees before the end of the year.
Further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Emergency passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 113, 2019 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer, seconds. Discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ordinance 113, 2019 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Finally, ordinance 114, 2019.
An ordinance establishing salaries, wages, and employment descriptions for certain employees of the city and updating classifications of employees to be known as the salary ordinance and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 114, 2019 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury, seconds. Discussion?
The reason for the emergency on a salary ordinance is so the new ranges are in place to allow for the increases that, the 2.5 increases that were granted from the mayor for the non-bargaining units, and some other changes in ranges to make them work.
Thank you. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Emergency passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 114, 2019 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. McFerrin, seconds. Discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ordinance 114, 2019 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Next up is unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. Ms. McFerrin.
I'd like to wish all the residents and city employees the happy holidays and a happy new year. I also want to take a minute to address some comments that were made at the last council meeting when I wasn't here, that were made by Mr. Fury. First of all, when I was on council 4 years ago, I received an email where the current vice president was asking about our committee assignments. And when I asked why we were getting this when we hadn't voted on the next council president, I got 2 emails from Mr. Fury, one saying I was nuts, and the second one explaining the protocol that vice president become president. His second comment on last council meeting was that I not fulfill my duties on council. And to be clear, I got one phone call from him on my call log from March 3rd at 1:03 confronting me on the council committee assignments that were already in place for the year. I would like to say that I have fulfilled my duties of council because there was nothing in the rules of council at the time that I was being confronted or on from last meeting. So I'm not sure why Mr. Fury felt that he had to say this, but I did want to tell the residents that I do believe I fulfilled my responsibilities on council and I've made contributions on the committees that I've served on. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker.
Yes, I have just a little bit to say. I did attend Luminosity this past Saturday. Great event. My granddaughter enjoyed it. Of course, we got cold and we had to leave, but it was really a fun event. And I also would like to wish Sam Scafidi happy 39th birthday on tomorrow.
39.
And also, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah to everyone. I hope I didn't miss anybody out. So enjoy your time off. Thank you.
Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. I just thank you, Daisy, for that well wishes on my birthday. And once again, I just want to say happy holidays to all our residents and all of our city employees. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Barr.
I don't mean to be difficult, Ms. Walker, but I think it's 49, not 39 for Mr. Scafidi. I think,
See, you told
how
me
you get down.
39.
I'm just saying.
He told me 39.
Yeah, not trying to be argumentative.
That's all right.
I'd just like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, have a safe and happy and healthy New Year. And it's been a privilege to serve on the committees that I was on last year. Got some new assignments this year. I'd especially like to thank members of the Planning Commission. That's just a terrific group of individuals, and it was a pleasure to serve with both them and the Environmental Commission members. Truly some hardworking folks, and we're really fortunate to have residents that are so committed to the moving Twinsburg in a positive direction. With that, I do have one final motion to make for the Planning Commission this evening. And that is to confirm the Planning Commission's approval for the site plan of Wilcox Meadows that is pursuant to Section 1146.10 of the codified ordinances of Twinsburg. So I'd like to make the motion at this time. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Is there any additional discussion on the Wilcox Meadows motion this evening? Hearing none, Shannon, I'd ask you to call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Wonderful. The motion confirming the Planning Commission's approval passes 7-0. And again, that's all I have this evening. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you.
Mrs. Stoffer.
I'd just like to say happy holidays and happy birthday, Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Mr. Fury.
Thank you. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, best holidays, good time with your family, and be safe. I will be participating in the Shop with the Cop this weekend. I'm looking very much forward to that. Ms. McFerrin,
Mr. Fury,
I like you.
I'm not really sure that's true.
I do. I do. And I supported you in your election, and I'm really glad you're here. And I wish you a very happy holiday
Oh,
and
thank
hope we move on from here.
Well, I hope you do too. Thank you. And
That's all I have.
hope that you move on from here.
Pardon me?
I didn't mean just the happy holiday. I hope you move on from here. Thank you.
Physically?
Take it any way you want.
Okay, I actually have one more motion to make. It's to approve the 2020 bid list for projects over $25,000 and over $50,000. Those projects include the road program, striping program, the tree program, engineering pickup. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Finally, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and that's all I got. Mary.
Thank you. Also for me, I just want to wish the residents a Merry Christmas, a safe New Year, and then also want to wish Mr. Scafidi a happy birthday. I won't say what birthday it is.
I'm not
And
saying.
I had
to tell
bought,
everybody.
and so I brought cupcakes. I bought a dozen cupcakes so that you can share in executive or however you like to share with individuals. I safeguarded them in the kitchen. However, there are 4 missing that people ate out of the kitchen
Are you kidding?
from late this afternoon till this council meeting. So you have 8 cupcakes to deal with. You have to select. So if you're on Mr. Scaffidi's good side, you may get gourmet cupcake this evening. So I just want to wish you a happy birthday. And
I'd like to 4 cupcakes.
Oh, nice.
Concerning.
You sure you don't nice?
I can't say which 4 we're taking.
Well,
Is that a good food?
Great thing.
standing up.
That's all I have.
Mr. Mason.
Thank you. First of all, the mayor's been around City Hall long enough to don't leave food in any kitchen at City Hall. It's going to be gone. Second of all, I'd like to, we had a public hearing earlier today. I want to thank Ed Kanzler for coming in. Mr. Kanzler did that on behalf of the BZA to explain their position, and I think that just goes to show, some of the members we have on these boards and commissions. I don't know if any asked him to come in. I didn't ask him to come in. I was glad that he was here. But that's just an example of something that Ed would do that's certainly appreciated by me and I think by council to add to that public hearing we had earlier. And then finally, just Merry Christmas to everybody. Council and residents, thank you.
Mrs. Collins.
I would just like to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Mr. Bellin, would you mind announcing the boards and commission
Oh,
openings,
yes,
please?
I was going to get there, I promise. Mrs. Bucci-Gross, I'll get there, I promise.
Happy holidays, happy birthday, and safe New Year to everybody.
Yes, and Ms. Collins, thank you for the reminder. In accordance with Section 7.01 of the Twinsburg Charter, we are going to be opening up some applications for some available boards and positions. Applications must be received by Friday, February 14th, 2019 at 4:30 p.m. to be considered. You can visit mytwinsburg.com to review all the openings. There are 3 openings on the Architectural Review Boards. That is a 3-year term. There are boards 2 and 3 on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Those are also 3-year terms. And there is 1 member of the Civil Service Commission, which is a 6-year term. There are 4 openings on the Environmental Commission, which are 2-year terms. There are 9 openings on the Glen Eagles Advisory Board for a 2-year term. There are 4 spots on Parks and Recreation Commission. That's for wards 3, 4, 5, and the teen representative. That's a 2-year spot. And there are 3 spots on the Planning Commission. That's wards 3, 4, and 5, which is a 3-year term. And with everybody here, we do not need to excuse any absent members. I'd like to make a motion to enter into an executive session to discuss matters pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1, personnel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We will reconvene to report on the executive session.
Hey, Shannon.